Hi guys, it's Honey here, and in this video I'll be talking about journaling and how I use journaling to help with my mental health. First off, let's do a disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional. Any advice that I'll be giving will be based on what my therapist has advised me and just what has worked with me in general. It might not apply to you in particular, so please take it with a grain of salt. I personally struggle with an anxiety disorder and bouts of dissociation, and journaling has been really helpful for me in kind of just living with that and helping tackle it. And so here are my tips for you today. For me personally, when I'm journaling for mental health, there are 3 types of journaling that I can do: a journal to track, a journal to record, or a journal to reflect. And today I'll be explaining what the differences of those 3 types are, and then afterwards I'll give you my tips on how to journal and how to just get started. Let's start by talking about the types of journals that you do to track. I track my moods and habits and goals in an app on my phone. Daengdej is a free app that you can use to track your days, and I recommended this to a few of my friends already, and they've used it differently. I personally track my moods on an energy scale. A lot of my friends track it on a scale from great to horrible. It just really depends on what you choose and whichever works best for you, because you can set what each of the emojis and the colors mean. Tracking helps me see how I'm doing on a bigger scale. It can also be really great if you're changing your treatment plan with your psychiatrist or your therapist, because you'll have a record of how the changes might have affected you or your mood over a period of time. It also helps me link some of the things that I feel to some of the habits that I have, and I'm better able to identify why maybe I'm feeling not so good in a certain day based on what I've done. Lastly, tracking helps keep me accountable. You can set weekly goals to accomplish, for example, a set number of times to do a particular good habit per week, or track how many days it's been since you've done the bad habit. I know some of you guys probably have made some resolutions for 2021, and this would be a great place to keep track of them too. Next up is a journal to record. I don't know about you, but I'm horrible at being in the moment. I'm spaced out or zoned out most days, and as a result, I have a lot of trouble remembering all the things that have happened in my life. It makes my nostalgic heart really sad to lose track of all those great memories, so here is where the record journal comes into play. I used to do this type of journaling on paper, but after a while I realized that keeping an online journal was a better fit for me. The app that I use for this is Daengdej. You can upload a photo to correspond with each entry, and it's really nice to be able to look back at what happened this time over the years once you build up your diary entries. Of course, you can also do this on a physical notebook. I just prefer using an app because my entries for this kind of journaling is usually only a few sentences long, and I get really discouraged when I see a blank space in a journal page, and I always feel like the pressure to fill it up. So this way, it's a little easier for me, and also I can keep some photos and videos and voice recordings as well, which is a nice touch. Lastly, and most importantly, if you only do one type of journaling, I advise that you do a reflection journal. This is the only type of journaling that I do on paper. I love the feeling of filling a blank page with all of my thoughts, and I like the fact that writing it all out in pen makes it so that I don't feel compelled to go back and make edits, because I can't. The words that I fill out onto the page are just my free-flowing thoughts, and there's something very therapeutic about writing out your feelings like that without having to worry about filtering your words or making sense. I used to do this on my notes app on my phone, but eventually I graduated to a physical notebook. This is my journal. His name is Andy. Yes, I name my journals. Andy is a moleskin, and he's a very good listener. I treat the time that I spend writing little letters to Andy as an essential step in my self-care. It's like a mini therapy session, and it's also really nice to be able to have all of this just written out, because when I go to my actual therapy session, I can just read it out. All the types of journaling that I mentioned earlier don't really need to be done separately. I personally find it really helpful to have one separate one to track my moods, and one separate one to record what I did that day, and another separate one to just spill my emotions and thoughts into. But you could totally just do it all in one place, whether that be an app or a Word document, something online, or something in paper. I started doing these 3 types of journaling pretty regularly since 2019, and ever since then I've learned some tips. So here they are if you need some help getting started. Tip number 1, if you're feeling stuck, try answering a journaling prompt. You can find a lot of introspective prompts or therapeutic journaling prompts online to answer in your journal, and it can really get you started, kind of give you some guidelines to start getting your thoughts and emotions out onto the paper. Tip number 2 is keep it simple and stick to what works. I know a lot of us feel pressure to write every day and fill out a whole page or make our handwriting or sentences look and sound beautiful, but that's not really the point. It doesn't even have to be a daily thing if that doesn't work for your schedule. Actually taking the time to listen and reflect is a treat for yourself, so enjoy it whichever way that works best for you. Tip number 3 is get the right notebook. This all depends on your preference, but I personally like writing on unlined paper, and I like having lots of pages, so I don't feel like I'm wasting paper or potentially running out of pages on days where I'm exceptionally wordy. For me personally, I also need a journal that can fit nicely in most of my bags because I like going outside to write in coffee shops. Some people might prefer an even smaller notebook because maybe they write less per day, or a bigger one because they write a lot. Just pick what works for you. Tip number 4 is make a big deal out of it. I treat my journaling time as an essential step in my self-care. Sometimes being a little extra about it helps me get into the therapeutic zone a little more. Sometimes I light a candle, I listen to some music, or make myself a nice cup of tea to drink while I write. A lot of the times I go out to a coffee shop and basically have a little date with myself and my thoughts, and it makes me feel better and improves my journaling experience, so it makes me want to write more. Tip number 5 is try sitting in silence. Recently, I started trying out meditation again, and an unintended positive consequence of that is that I've been writing in my journal so much more. Sitting in silence makes me really pay attention to what's going on in my head and in my body, and it gets me in a really reflective place. So if you're struggling to find the words, maybe try to sit in silence for a bit, and it might start to come to you. Tip number 6 is if this helps you, write to someone. Write a letter that you'd never send. I kind of personified my journal and gave him a name so that when I did write in it, I knew who I was writing to. I'm writing to Andy. Maybe that person for you is your future self. Maybe that person for you is your past self. Maybe it's your therapist or your best friend. You never even have to show them anything you write. But sometimes it's a nice exercise to basically just write a letter that you'll never send. I've found that my thoughts flow much smoother when I have someone to aim them at. And finally, tip number 7 is don't write on the first page. I don't know about you, but for me, the first page of a journal is so intimidating. It makes me overthink so much what I'm going to put on this very first page of something brand new. So usually I just skip that pressure by just skipping the first page, and it's really nice. I promise myself that I might come back one day and actually write something on the first page, but usually I don't, and it's nicer to get me started. You might not need this, but I definitely do, so if you do, that's okay too. It's your journal, so you make the rules. Those are all the tips that I have for you so far. Please let me know in the comments below if you have any tips for me. That would be much appreciated. I've been doing this for a bit, but I definitely still need a lot of help, and if you would let me know in the comments what kind of journaling that you do, or if there's a different type of journaling that you do that really helps you, that would be great too. Maybe if you're looking to start a new type of journaling this year, let me know in the comments and we can maybe help keep each other accountable. Alrighty, yo, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.